Chapter 4 Virtue Ethics. Specific objectives. At the end of the lesson, the student should be able to discuss the meaning and the basic principle of virtue ethics, distinguish virtuous act from the non-virtuous act, and apply the Aristotle ethics is understanding the Filipino character, happiness, and ultimate purpose. Virtue ethic is an approach to ethics that takes the notion of virtue, often conceived an excellence as fundamental. Virtue ethics is primarily concerned with traits and character that are essential of human flourishing, not with the enumerate of duties. Virtue is the ethical framework that is concerned with the understanding the good of matter of developing the virtuous character of person. According to virtue ethics, there are certain ideas such as excellence or dedication to the common good, toward which we should strive, which allow the full development of our humanity. These ideals are discovered through truthful reflection of what we human beings have the potential to become. Virtues are attitude, disposition, or our characters, traits, and enable to be and act ways that develop this potential. They are enable to us to pursue the ideals we have to adopted. Honesty, courage, and compassion, generosity and fidelity, integrity and fairness, self-control are the example of virtues. Two major thinkers of ancient Greece, Plato and Aristotle. Aristotle book entitled Nicomachean Ethics. Both Plato and Aristotle affirm rationality and highest faculty of person, and having such a characteristic enable of the person to realize that very purpose of the existence. For Plato, the real is outside the real of the any human sensory experience, but somehow grasped by one's intellect. For Aristotle, real is found within our everyday encounter with object is the world. What makes nature intelligible is the character of having both form of matter. For Plato, happiness or well-being is the highest aim of moral truth and conduct, and the virtues are the disposition skill needed to attain it. According to Aristotle, the virtuous person exhibit the joint excellence of reason and of character, happiness, and ultimate purpose. Telos equals purpose and goal. The telos of the acorn is to become the oak tree. The acorn is the potential and oak tree. Aristotle developed the concept of telos in 4th century BC. The telos of the living thing is like the oak tree. The rises out of the acorn. We all come to this life with inherent capacities and given the right environment, like sun, water, shade, space. We have the capacity to grow into the might out.
Aristotle Metaphysics. Metaphysics for Aristotle was the study of nature and ourselves. In this sense, he brings metaphysics to this world of sense experience, where we live, learn, know, think, and speak. Every matter looks for its form. He was concerned with understanding the principle of change, from potentiality to actuality through reason, logos. In this change, intervene four causes: material cause, matter; efficient cause, agent; formal cause, form, shape; final cause, purpose. According to Aristotle, every act that a person does is directed toward a particular purpose, aim on what the Greeks called telos. Ayon daw kay Aristotle, bawat kilos na ginagawa ng isang tao ay nakadirekta sa isang partikular na layunin, tunguhin ang tinatawag ng mga Greek na telos. Aristotle 384 to 322 BCE. Telos and purpose. The key idea in Aristotle natural law is that there is an unchanging order principle to the changing physical world. By understanding this order, we can learn what is natural for something or someone to do or be or become. Its purpose or telos. Ang telos daw ang pangunahing ideya sa natural na batas ni Aristotle ay mayroong hindi nagbabagong kaayusan sa nagbabagong pisikal na mundo. Sa pamamagitan ng pag-unawa sa pagkasunod-sunod na ito, maaari nating malaman kung ano ang natural para sa isang bagay o sa isang tao na gawin o maging layunin o telos nito. Supreme good is found when things fulfill their purpose. Ang pinakamataas na kabutihan ay matatagpuan kapag ang mga bagay ay natupad ang kanilang layunin. Aristotle's theory of causes distinguish between efficient and final causes. First, the highest good of a person must be final. As a final end, it is no longer utilized for the sake of arriving at a much higher end. Bilang isang pangwakas na dulo, hindi na ito ginagamit para makarating sa mas mataas na dulo. The purpose of remembering lesson in the course, that is why one writes down notes, is not the final end because it is clear that such purpose is aimed at achieving a much higher goal. Ang layunin ng pag-alala ng aralin sa kurso, kaya naman isinusulat ng isa ang tala ay hindi ang pangwakas na wakas, dahil malinaw na ang layunin ay naglalayon sa pagkamit ng mas mataas na layunin. Second, the ultimate telos of a person must be self-sufficient. Satisfaction in life is arrived at one's highest good is attained. Ang kasiyahan sa buhay ay dumarating kaagad ang pinakamataas na kabutihang ito ay natamo. Nothing else is sought after and desired once this self-sufficient goal is achieved. Since this is already considered as the best possible good in life, wala nang iba pang hinahangad sa sandaling makamit ang makasariling layuning ito, dahil ito ay tinuturing na ang pinakamahusay na posibleng kabutihan sa buhay. The goal of remembering the lesson in the course is not yet the best possible good because a person can still seek for other more satisfying goals in her life. Ang layunin ng pag-alala sa aralin sa kurso ay hindi pa ang pinakamahusay na posibleng kabutihan, dahil ang isang tao ay maaari pa ring maghanap ng iba pang mas kasiyasiyang layunin sa kanyang buhay. Highest goal for Aristotle. Other individuals would agree that the highest purpose and the ultimate good of a man is happiness, or for the Greeks, eudaimonia means happiness. Ang ibang mga individual ay sasang-ayon na ang pinakamataas na layunin at ang tunay na kabutihan ng tao ay kaligayahan, o para sa mga Griego, ang ibig sabihin ng eudaimonia ay kaligayahan. Happiness for Aristotle is the only self-sufficient.
Virtue as excellent is the achieving the highest purpose of life. It's a difficult thing to do. Virtue is being able to perform an excellence. This excellent way of doing things is called virtue arete by the Greeks. Virtues are life skills that enable a person to realize their potential for living the good life as a rational, social animal. Virtues cannot be accomplished by a single act. Virtues allow us to perform our function well, or our function being the activity of the soul in accordance with reasons. Excellence in the activity of the human soul, and therefore one needs to understand the very structure. According to Aristotle, is quick to add the virtue is something that one strives for in one time. One does not become an excellent person overnight. Being an excellence
individual works of doing well in her today existence. Or in other words, you cannot perform something excellent in just a single act. In short, it cannot be done in overnight. Example, a lot of experience, a lot of trials. Excellent is the activity of the human soul. If you are doing it, if you are doing something excellent, meaning you are doing something with passion, doing with what you do the best, or you are not doing this just for compliance. Example of that is a lot of students knowing that's admitted to comply, but they're just doing it for compliance. What exactly makes a human being excellent? One needs to understand the basic structure of person's soul, which must be directed by her rational activity and excellence way. According to Aristotle, says that excellence is an activity of human soul, and therefore one needs to understand the very structure of a person's soul, which must be directed by her rational activity and excellence. According to Aristotle, the human soul is divided into two parts. First is irrational element. This part of the mind is not realm where virtue is exercised because, as the term suggests, it cannot be dictated by reasons. In other words, part of the mind that cannot be dictated by the reason. It consists of the vegetative and appetitive aspects. For Aristotle, the soul has three aspects. First is vegetative soul, shared by all living things. Vegetative soul was the lowest soul, which included the function basic to all living things. Also called it the nutritive soul, is responsible for the most elementary functions of life, such as nutrition, growth, reproductions. Plants are living beings that have only these functions. They are born, nourished, reproduce, and die. Therefore, plants are perfect example of living beings that possess the vegetative soul. However, the vegetative soul is not exclusive only to plants. Second is appetitive soul. Passions, appetites, and emotions. Appetitive soul is the second highest of the three souls, which included all of the powers of the vegetative soul as well as the powers of movement and emotion, as well as the 10 internal and external senses. Lastly is intellectual soul, is possessed only by humans. It is responsible for intellectual operation. It is a truth that man is a rational being capable of thinking and understanding. They have a two aspect. First is vegetative aspects. It is a function as giving nutrition and providing activity of physical growth in a person's. This is the part of responsible for nutrition and growth. It has no share in reason and is therefore not directly relevant to the virtues. The appetitive aspect is works as desiring faculty of man that naturally runs counter to a reason in most of the soul. Sexual impulse, for example, is strong in a person that one tends to ignore reasonables. In other words, characterized by natural desire to satisfy bodily needs. This is the part that governs desire. The vegetative aspect of the soul is follow the natural processes involved in the physical activities and growth of a person, whereas that appetitive aspects works as desiring the faculty of a man.
Rational faculty. Rational faculty is one of the part of human soul for Aristotle. Rational faculty, man exercise excellence in him. So in rational, this part of a human soul, it cannot be dictated by reason, the irrational. But in rational faculty, one can rightly or wrongly apply the use of reason in this part. In rational faculty, where a person can attain excellence in the intellectual faculty, attains through teaching. This faculty is further divided into two aspects, which is moral and intellectual. Moral, which concerns the act of doing, and intellectual, which concerns the act of knowing. So it weighs up knowledge and helps us arrive to decision. It holds the knowledge that are factual and not for the debate of priority. Moral and intellectual, where our function of reason is exercise. So, moral is for doing, and intellectual is for the act of knowing. One rational aspect where a person can attain excellence is in the intellectual faculty of the soul. Excellence is gained through teaching or through time. So, nagigain tayo ng knowledge through our experience. One learn and gain wisdom by being taught or learning. So, we can learn to our experience or natuturuan. So, we attain excellence through teaching. Next, these are the 6 classes of virtues: wisdom, courage, humanity, moderation, transcendence, and justice. By practicing this virtuous behavior, creates habits which in turn form our character and help us to flourish or grow in a healthy way. So these aspects of our personality that define what is best in us. So through practicing these virtues, collectively they are responsible for our greatest achievements and fulfillment or to attain excellence. 2 ways by which one can attain intellectual excellence. First is philosophic wisdom. Deals with attaining knowledge about the fundamental principles and truths that govern the universe. For example, studying general theory on the origin of things. It means it understands the meaning of life. It can attain knowledge and understand the meaning of life. So, through understanding the importance of life, we can attain intellectual excellence. The condition of being excellence can be attained by a person through the intellectual aspect of the soul or yung diniscuss ko kanina. But this situation does not make her into a morally good individual. For Socrates, moral goodness is already within the realm of intellectual excellence. Knowing the good implies the ability to perform morally virtuous acts. So, ang pag-alam sa mabuti ay nagpapahiwatig na may kakayahan ka na magsagawa ng mabuting gawa. For Aristotle, however, having intellectual excellence does not necessarily mean that one already has the capacity of doing the good. Knowing the good that needs to be done is different from doing the good that one needs to accomplish. So, para kay Aristotle, ang pag-alam sa mabuti na kailangan gawin ay iba sa paggawa ng mabuti na kailangang maisakutuparan. Therefore, rational faculty of a person tell us that she is capable of achieving 2 kinds of virtues, which is the moral and intellectual. A morally virtuous man for Aristotle is someone who habitually determines the good and does the right action. Moral virtue is acquired through habit. So, for example, being a good basketball player, for example, involve constant training and endless hour of shooting and dribbling the ball in the right way until one habitually does the right same. So, kapag nakagawian mo na itong gawin or na practice and train mo na, is magtutuloy-tuloy ka na tama na ang iyong ginagawa. So, a moral person habitually chooses the good and consistently does good deeds. It is this constant act of choosing and doing the good that a person is able to form her character. So, through doing and choosing right, you were able to form your good character.
Moral virtue and methods. According to Aristotle, developing practical wisdom involves learning from experience, messages in somewhere in between the words deficiencies and imbalance as stated by Aristotle, which means that the knowledge is not inherent to a person knowing the right thing to do when one is confronted by a choice is not an easy thing. Mesotes, the meaning of the center, is a major element in the description of human virtues in Aristotle's may common sense ethics. On the other hand, the principle of Mesites is often described as powerful. Wisdom identifies as the right action. Nothing is lacking too much from an action that is morally good. Mesites also defines whether the act applied is not excessive or deficient. A person may initially make mistakes on how reason is applied to a particular moral or action, but through those mistakes, the person will be able to sustain practical wisdom to help stability to determine what are they considered more right choice or action. So in other words, moral virtue is the ability to mature and grow in our own capacity of knowing what to do and living a morally right up life. Under moral virtue, there are three. First, moral virtue is firstly the condition arrived at by a person who has a character identified out of her habitual exercise of particular action. One's character is seen as a growth in terms of continuously preferences for the good. Secondly, the action done that normally manifests feelings and passion is chosen because it is the middle. The middle do not fall short or excessive of the proper proportion by which those feelings or passion should be expressed. Aristotle also added the middle is relatively as in general. That serves as a guide for the proper identification of the middle is practical wisdom. The virtuous person learns from her experience and therefore develops the capacity to know the proper way of carrying out her feelings, passions, and actions. Aristotle also provides example of particular virtues and corresponding excesses and deficiencies of these. The table shows some of the virtues and their vices. Here we have a table with three columns: excess, middle, and deficiency. In excess, merong impulsiveness, middle, self-control, deficiency, indecisiveness. Next, we have recklessness, courage, cowardice, profanity, liberty, meaningless. At doon na po natatapos ang report po namin. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. Joss.